Tonight on To The Point.
Is parking enforcement hurting businesses in Midtown? The founder of the Sacramento Comedy Spot here is taking his concerns directly to City Council.
A new battle over California's billionaires. Why a proposed wealth tax is sparking a multi-million-dollar campaign battle just months before voters decide.
It's like fee after fee after fee.
They thought they were renewing their registration through the DMV, but ended up paying hundreds more. The warning about third-party websites and the fight over unexpected fees. And in our Champions of Hope, the former Shriners patient who turned her story into a children's book with a powerful message. A night out in Sacramento is getting a little bit more expensive. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us on To The Point. I'm Alex Bell. And that's because starting this month, all parking meters now will run until 10 p.m. Local business owners say that they are seeing the impact on customers. I want to bring in ABCN's Becca Habegger to explain a little bit more about some of the changes people are going to be seeing. Huh, Becca?
Yeah, Alex, prior to July 1st, already 80% of the parking meters in the city of Sacramento had to be fed until 10 p.m. But starting this month, the city expanded that to 100% of its meters. In places like Lavender Heights, where meter enforcement used to end at 6 p.m., the change is leading to confusion and citations.
So like the Comedy Spot, we moved in 2009.
Brian Krall is founder and executive director of the Sacramento Comedy Spot, located on 20th Street between J and K Streets. Until July 1st, parking meter enforcement here ended at 6 p.m. Now it runs until 10 p.m., and Krall says at least 10 customers have complained about getting tickets since the change.
Because we don't want people coming down here, getting a ticket for $77, and then never coming back to the area again. It's hurting business in that area.
Krall brought his concerns to Sacramento City Council members at last week's meeting, asking them to pause restrictive parking enforcement in the area between 6 and 10 p.m.
I don't think there's adequate signage down there right now. Just this past Friday, there were 4 cars lined up that all had tickets. I don't think that they were all rolling the dice to see if they could get away with it. I think that they just didn't know they had to pay. And I don't think all 4 of those people will come back to Sacramento if they're from outside of Midtown.
ABC 10 reached out to the city of Sacramento for an interview about Krall's concerns. A spokesperson replied with a statement saying, "As with all metered parking throughout the city, customers should check the parking meter for the applicable hours when payment is required, including rates and payment instructions for that specific location. All city parking meter signage directs customers to check the meter for details. Customers using the Park mobile app will also see the hours when payment is required before starting a parking session."
The signs on this street do say "See meter display for details." These kiosks do say parking is enforced until 10 p.m. every night of the week, but Brian Krall says he thinks that information should be printed clearly on all the signs along the street.
You know, so if they don't see the kiosk, it doesn't tell you when you have to park. So now people are like, do I, don't I?
Krall says he does appreciate how responsive the city has been to his concerns, including his council member Phil Pluckybaum and city staff. We spoke with Krall right after he had a Zoom meeting with 2 city parking managers.
Very nice people, again, proposing solutions, trying to figure things out. And they're actually putting a hold on some of the enforcement for a while they do try and create signage that's a little bit more clear.
He shared an email from one of the parking managers saying immediate actions will include adding the hours of meter operation directly to the parking meter signs to make it clear to customers when payment is required, in addition to several other measures meant to help ease drivers into the new later parking meter enforcement period. Krall says ideally he'd like to see parking enforcement rolled back to 6 p.m. in evening entertainment districts.
I know they're trying to do their best, but I would just like them to really think about this situation, how special this corridor has been and will continue to be to Sacramento. And maybe we can make special exceptions for parts of the town.
The city points out meter rates did not increase this fiscal year. I spoke on the phone with Councilmember Phil Pluckybaum, whose district includes Midtown and Downtown. He says parking issues are the highest frequency complaint his office receives, and the city tries finding solutions that balance the city's need for revenue with the needs of businesses and customers. Alex?
All right, Becca, thank you so much. And some more changes are coming to the Old Sacramento waterfront to make the area more safe following last week's stabbing in Old Sacramento. The Downtown Sacramento Partnership and the Sacramento Police Department are starting a new safety strategy to address the increase in late night crime. Beginning at 10 p.m. every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, vehicle traffic will be limited to the exterior streets of Old Sacramento, and juvenile curfew will continue to be strictly enforced. Pedestrians will still be able to access open businesses, and vehicles parked within the area will be able to leave. We'll have much more on this coming up on Late News tonight at 11. Californians will be voting on several propositions on their November ballot. ABC 10 political reporter Jenny Ha has more on the fight over the proposed billionaire's tax.
Our healthcare system is literally on the verge of collapse.
Dave Reagan leads the healthcare union SEIU-UHW, which is backing Proposition 40, a one-time 5% tax on California's roughly 200 billionaires. Supporters say it could raise $100 billion to help offset federal healthcare funding cuts, with 90% going to healthcare and 10% to education.
This is a common sense proposal. Nobody is offering another solution.
But the political fight is brewing. The Yes on Prop 40 campaign has raised at least $30 million per state campaign finance records and is backed by national Democrats, Senator Bernie Sanders and Congressman Ro Khanna. The No on Prop 40 side has at least 4 opposition campaigns. Stop the Squeeze is led by Gavin Newsom, who has remained adamantly opposed to the wealth tax and has raised $400,000 according to finance filings. Another Golden State Promise has raised $10 million, backed entirely by billionaire Chris Larson.
Folks are concerned about everybody paying their fair share, and I think that's a laudable goal. But this measure isn't the way to do it.
But the most recent No campaign was launched by the California Primary Care Association, California Medical Association, and California School Boards Association, not by billionaires.
California can't afford the reckless wealth tax experiment.
Opponents say it's not a long-term fix and could drive billionaires out of California, costing the state income tax revenue used for education, healthcare, prisons, and other services, according to the nonpartisan Legislative Analyst's Office.
This is a poorly written measure. It benefits only one specific group at the expense of everybody else.
But the proponents counter.
The people with that critique have no solution.
Reagan also cites new internal polling, which shows of the surveyed likely 2026 voters, 57% support the tax, 38% say they do not. To which a spokesperson for the Stop the Squeeze opposition campaign says while the tax has initial appeal since it addresses inequality, it would hurt Californians in the long run. Opposition will also appear on the ballot via Propositions 41 and 42, both backed by billionaire and Google co-founder Sergey Brin.
They're essentially designed to undo what the proponents of Prop 40 are attempting to do.
Jenny Ha, ABC 10.
If Proposition 41 or 42 gets more than Proposition 40, it could effectively block the wealth tax. All right, right after the break, thousands are heading to the California State Fair for its final weekend. What you need to know so you can beat the heat. And then the story that we've been talking about, the DMV website you thought you were on, it may have cost you some extra money. Tonight, the fight over hidden fees from third-party sites.
So I'm tracking heat, triple digits, but also developing this evening. We may see some smoke moving in towards Sacramento. I've got a full look at that forecast coming up after the break.
Well, this is the final weekend of the California State Fair, and the hot temperatures are not stopping thousands of people from heading to Cal Expo. A state fair official says the fairgrounds are prepared for the heat with 7 cooling zones, 8 air-conditioned buildings, and also a shaded wine garden, if that's your thing. But she also says, look, fairgoers also need to become prepared.
What we want people to do is think about when they're coming out here. Bring your sunscreen. Make sure you bring water. You can bring an unopened plastic bottle of water, and then we have refilling stations. And think about your clothing. What are you going to wear? Bring hats, bring sunglasses, wear light, cool colored clothing.
And there is a route that takes fairgoers from one air-conditioned area to another. We do have those details over at abc10.com. And the good news here is that in the next year, the state fair happens. It will actually run from September 17th to October 3rd. which hopefully by then temperatures will be much, much cooler than what we're seeing now. But I do want to get things over to meteorologist Brenda Minchef. I know that we're going to talk about a fire. It's not in our area, but you're worried about some smoke coming to our area. So kind of break things down if people are starting to smell smoke outside.
Yeah, definitely. We're not smelling smoke yet, but this is something that I'll be watching over the next 2 to 3 hours. So this is the Woodside Fire. It's literally along the immediate coastline in Sonoma County. It is west of Highway 1. That tells you just how close to the water it is. No good view of it from the Alert California cameras, but you do see that smoke plume. It's very low to the ground, and the winds out there are coming out of the north. So we're seeing deteriorating air quality in places like Santa Rosa and Petaluma right along 101. I know, not even in our viewing area. However, those winds are going to shift, and that smoke is going to hit those shifting winds as it starts to move into the Delta. So look at this. This is Sears Point. That's the Speedway. This is in Sonoma County. Look at all that smoke that's starting to spill into Sears Point, right? That's just near 37. This is on the North Bay. This is inland, right? This is not where that fire is. So what we're seeing is, again, north winds near the fire, bringing that smoke into Santa Rosa, into the North Bay. But then the winds, we know that's a Delta breeze, comes out of the southwest. So that smoke's going to be brought into places like Vacaville and Fairfield in the next hour or two. And we may see some of that coming in towards the capital city and Woodland by the time we get towards about 9 p.m. tonight. And it's not going to be real heavy smoke necessarily. It may smell like smoke out there, make it a little hazy, and that is likely to continue as we head towards midnight tonight. So that's the immediate story that we're tracking, is the smoke. But I do want to briefly touch on the heat here. Weather impact alert Friday to Tuesday. Some prolonged heat where temperatures in the morning going to be in the mid 60s, although Friday morning we are going to start off in the upper 50s and low 60s. But it's really the afternoons we're going to see this heat. Tomorrow we're near 100 degrees in the valley, and it's going to be even warmer this weekend as high pressure builds right overhead. It is going to be hot, especially Sunday and Monday, the two hottest days of the next 10. But even as we work towards the end of next week, we stay warm under that ridge of high pressure. Fire danger also increasing. Fuels are drying out. And again, temperatures the warmest that we've seen so far this year. About 5 days with temperatures at above 100 degrees before we drop into those mid and upper 90s the second half of next week. Alex.
All right, Brendan, thank you. Right after the break, if you paid your car registration through a third-party website, you probably paid some more extra fees. Coming up, the fight over those hidden fees and also the tech giant who stepped in to warn California drivers. And then, of course, it's Thursday, so we have our Champions of Hope series coming up tonight. The spotlight on an author who is using her shared experience to help Shriners patients gain some confidence. Welcome back in. President Donald Trump's pick for Attorney General is facing resistance within the Republican Party. Now, the president says he may be open to temporarily withdrawing the nomination. On social media today, Trump said that he would have no objection to pulling Todd Blanche's name for now. He said he would resubmit it after Senators John Cornyn and Tom Tillis leave office next year. Trump blasted both lawmakers who have refused to back Blanche. The two senators met privately with Blanche Thursday afternoon, according to two sources. They've battled with the administration over its controversial anti-weaponization fund and a tax agreement protecting the Trump family. All right, now to the story that we have been talking about. Hundreds of California drivers believe they were misled into paying extra fees on the websites they thought were the DMV. Lawmakers agreed that there was a problem and tried to limit those fees, but those efforts failed. Reporter Stephanie Sierra looked at what happened and who stepped in instead.
I didn't read the fine print.
Manuela Raquel thought she was renewing her registration on the DMV website.
I got taken in somehow and ended up paying $90 more than I needed to.
She actually landed on needtags.com, a third-party DMV provider. Her DMV registration cost $612, but NeedTags charged $702, an extra $90 in fees.
It's like fee after fee after fee.
Lena Lurt made the same mistake and was also hit with $90 in added fees.
A service fee of $49, BPA fee of $7, super high fee for credit cards of $25, plus $7 shipping.
They're using this language about being a DMV business partner to create the false impression in someone's mind that you're paying the same amount as if you were on the DMV website. That's not true. Consumers are paying, in some cases, hundreds of dollars more beyond what they would pay just by going straight to the DMV website.
I said, I'm terribly distressed. I made a terrible mistake and pushed submit in error.
Manuela immediately tried to cancel her order.
All payments are final. Improper chargebacks may constitute fraud.
They're trying to make me feel like a criminal.
Alan Jensen was threatened when he disputed the extra charges. It drove him to tears.
If you dispute this transaction, we will take legal action immediately. Not what I would expect from a reputable company.
Alan Peterson of San Jose fought the charges and lost. What surprised him most, the DMV authorizes these companies and does not limit what they can charge.
Why is our government enabling them? Why is it officially sanctioned by the government? Charging 37% premium to register my car is not fair.
Now he's pushing for a state law that would cap those fees.
You owe the citizens of the state protection from need tags and their own DMV.
You can find yourself accessing services that you can get through the DMV through these online vendors and being charged huge markups.
Assemblymember Matt Haney sponsored the bill after seeing our reports about need tags complaints. The first bill won overwhelming committee support, but never reached a floor vote.
It's now 2026. And again, I'm speaking to this committee.
A second bill this year cleared committee too, but it also stalled. Consumer advocate Robert Harrell believes the money may be part of the reason.
The DMV has this sort of secret, maybe not so secret, alliance with these business partners because the DMV gets a piece of the action for every transaction these other partners do.
The DMV gets $7 for every transaction by its business partners, and the consumer pays it. Collectively, those fees generate about $35 million a year.
They kind of are defending the indefensible. You can't defend charging $300, $400 for what should be a $200 registration renewal.
While lawmakers failed to pass a fix, someone else took action. Google. Ads for private companies offering government services now carry a warning, not a government website.
So what I learned is Google did something for the people of California while their public servants say, give me the money.
And if you do want to avoid those extra fees, make sure you go directly to the DMV's website at dmv.ca.gov. Again, you want to see that .ca.gov. That information also printed on your registration renewal notice that you get from the DMV that comes in your mail. Make sure you take a look at that and check it out because you'll see all the information you need to know right there. All right, I do want to take some time now to answer a question from one of our viewers. Dave, thank you so much for writing into our show. It means a lot to our team here. He wrote in about a story that we've been covering this week and talking a lot about, which is Proposition 39. If you remember, this measure will appear on the November ballot. It has to do with voter ID and is the center of a growing bipartisan battle over the wording and the language of the proposition. So Dave reached out and said, look, I want to see side by side, what does the ballot title actually say? What was it? What does it say now? So take a look at this. Proponents want to keep the original language, which says establishes additional voter identification and citizenship verification requirements. The change that the Attorney General made later on the revised ballot title says prohibits citizens from voting unless they present government-issued identification. So the Yes on 39 side argue that the new wording is inaccurate and portrays the measure more negatively, while the Attorney General's office says that it revised the language to more accurately describe the measure's legal effect. The lawsuit asks a court to decide whether the revised title is fair and impartial. So this is still ongoing. We'll keep you updated, of course, and you can read more about this issue over at abc10.com. But Dave, thank you so much for reaching out to our team. I know many of you guys do reach out, and we really appreciate it. If you ever have any questions like this, please reach out at ToThePoint at abc10.com. We're back after this break. Tonight in our Champions of Hope, a former Shriners patient is turning her experience into a children's book, helping kids embrace their differences and build confidence.
What starts as a funny question,
what if we were all the same,
became the inspiration behind Judy Spencer's children's book.
It's actually a satirical book because we're actually not all the same, of course. It's a funny story that it paints this picture of how silly and confusing life would be if we were literally all the same. How many hands do you have? Dos.
Her children's book uses humor
How many do I have?
To make a simple point.
We're different, right? We're all the same, actually, because we're all different, and life is more extraordinary because of it.
That message comes from lived experience.
I found myself using my limb difference, me being born differently, as a way to talk about diversity.
Judy was born with a limb difference. Before she became an author, she was a patient at Shriners Children's Hospital.
The confidence and the welcoming that Shriners provided me was instrumental in my childhood. This is me when I was 5 years old. I was the poster child of the East-West Shrine Game. And this was the original program. They instilled this mentality that my difference was beautiful and celebrated.
Now becoming a children's book about celebrating diversity and helping kids feel confident being themselves.
If I can make an impact on 1 or 2 kiddos, that's all I want.
And money from her book goes back to Shriners. You can buy a copy on Amazon. That link is on our website. I'll see you tomorrow.